Welcome back to TLDR's daily briefing for Wednesday, the 26th of March, 2025. In today's episode, we cover the Black Sea ceasefire deal, Israel striking Syria, and the White House group chat leaks. But first, a spring statement from the UK Chancellor. Rachel Reeves has had a tricky job over the last few months. Her main mission has been to try and increase GDP growth in the UK. While she saw some movement on this in mid-2024, any such increases had evaporated by the end of the year, with growth actually contracting by 0.1% in January. For her part, Reeves argues that this is a result of global factors. Her political opponents, though, argue that it is simply her ineptitude as Chancellor. Obviously, this placed a lot of pressure on Reeves. The OBR revised down its growth forecast for 2025 from 2% to 1%. Without intervention, the budget would have been in deficit by £4.1 billion by the end of Parliament, breaking one of her two fiscal rules. So, Reeves has opted to act. In the 2 weeks running up to the spring statement, the government announced a wealth of spending cuts, opting to end NHS England, a non-departmental public body independent of the Department of Health and Social Care, to slash welfare spending and reduce civil service costs by 15%. These changes were confirmed today in the spring statement, with Reeves demonstrating that, as a result of the changes, the OBR has adjusted its forecast. By the end of the Parliament, the UK is expected to have a fiscal surplus of £9.9 billion. This is on top of a prediction that net financial debt will be falling by the end of the Parliament. If these OBR figures are correct, it will mean that Reeves will have successfully met her two fiscal rules, and will be able to claim that her decision to cut spending was justified. Whether her critics accept this argument, though, is another question entirely. You're listening to TLDR's daily briefing. If you want more explainers on what's happening in the world, then you should check out TLDR's other channels. Today, we released videos on why Trump and Vance hate Europe so much, whether Orban has bankrupted Hungary, and an episode of our podcast, The World Leader Leaderboard. You can find those videos linked in the description or show notes for this episode, or by searching for TLDR on YouTube or Nebula. The US says it has reached agreements with Ukraine and Russia for a ceasefire in the Black Sea, after talks with both sides in Saudi Arabia. On Tuesday, the White House said that Ukraine and Russia had agreed to ensure safe navigation, eliminate the use of force, and prevent the use of commercial vessels for military purposes in the Black Sea. However, before implementing the ceasefire, Russia has demanded the lifting of sanctions on Russian banks involved in the production of and the trade of agricultural goods, as well as for those banks to be readmitted to the SWIFT payment system, which would require EU approval. This has been met with skepticism from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who said, "There's no faith in the Russians, but I believe we will act constructively and do our part to implement the outcomes of the US-Ukraine meeting." For its part, Ukraine has agreed to immediately halt deep strikes on Black Sea and energy targets. But even if the ceasefire goes ahead, the deal falls short of the original ceasefire plan proposed by the US for a 30-day ceasefire along the 1,000-kilometer front lines. Indonesia's rupiah fell to its lowest level against the dollar since the Asian financial crisis in 1998. The slide prompted the country's central bank to intervene in bond and currency markets. The bank blamed global factors, including Donald Trump's tariffs, for the rupiah's fall. However, since October, when the country's new president, former Defense General Prabowo Subianto, took office, Indonesia's stock market has been slumping, and markets have been spooked by Indonesia's spending plans. While the new president inherited a pretty strong economy, thanks to a decade of infrastructure spending and foreign investment, Prabowo has unleashed a wave of populist measures, targeting young Indonesians, including a 6.5% increase in the minimum wage and a costly free school meals scheme. At least 6 people have been killed in an Israeli attack on Koya in southern Syria yesterday. The Israeli military said the attack took place after armed fighters opened fire towards Israeli troops, without specifying whether the Israeli forces were located within Syrian territory when they were targeted. Syria's Ministry of Foreign Affairs condemned the, quote, continued Israeli aggression on Syrian territory and called for an international investigation on the attacks, calling them a blatant violation of sovereignty. And finally, in an update from the story on the US Signal group chat leak, US National Security Advisor Mike Waltz has taken responsibility for the mistaken addition of a journalist to a group chat where classified information about strike plans on Yemen's Houthis was discussed. On Tuesday, Waltz told Fox News, "I take full responsibility, I built the group," adding that it was embarrassing. However, he also said he was unable to explain how the journalist ended up being added to the chat, saying that another, unnamed contact was supposed to be there instead. It comes amid attempts by the White House to downplay the seriousness of the incident, with US President Donald Trump calling it a glitch. That's all for today. We'll be back with you tomorrow, so make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen. In the meantime, you can check out the latest episode of our podcast, The World Leader Leaderboard, where we discuss which heads of government are doing well and who's doing badly every week. You can find the link in the podcast description. This was a TLDR news production hosted by Georgina Findlay, written by Ben Blissett and Georgina Findlay, and produced by Scarlett Watchorn. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again tomorrow.